Welcome to Moms on the Ground. This is Angela. We're sitting here with Melissa and we brought Tiffany back. We're going to finish up our wonderful conversation and teach you guys how to do a public records request.
We're going to keep this one shorter. We felt like the last segment was important to kind of let you know, that Tiffany is a mom, just like we are moms, and, kind of what brought her to this stage. And I would guess that many people listening are coming to this point and perhaps are curious about how to do the public records requests.
Absolutely. And it's a pleasure to be able to talk to all our listeners today about how to embark on that process. First, let me clarify that there are different forms of records requests. Whenever you're asking for records at more of a federal level, that's different. What I'm focused on today, you can use a similar template, but I'm focused specifically on local public records at the local level.
Correct. And we're going to put a template for this type of request in the description of this podcast so that you will have a template to work with. And if you have any questions, you can contact us.
Yes, excellent. So the first thing you're going to want to do is look up on your district's website, do a search for public records, and see if there is a point of contact or if there is a section on your website that tells you who or where to send your request to. It varies from district to district. Irvine, for example, has no information about how to do this on their website. Although I will say that because we have been so busy doing requests over the past 2 years, they have now created an email address for us to direct them to. It used to be they all went directly to the executive assistant, to the superintendent, but now they have an email address.
Yeah, it was tricky to find. I think I had to call the district.
It is. Mm-hmm. They have nothing about it. So that tells me they don't really want to share information.
Right. Well, that's what I found.
Yes. So look for how you submit it or who you submit it to. That's step one. Before you even draft your public records request, use the template that we're going to provide. It has some legalese at the beginning and end of it, and you will just put your materials in the middle. And the beginning part covers the preamble of the California Education Code and any other legal provisions that give us as citizens the right to request records.
Correct.
And the bottom portion of it has a little more legalese. It cites areas of the Ed Code, but it says you must provide a response within 10 days of receipt of this request, and ideally provide the records within 10 days as well. But we acknowledge in that bottom paragraph that some of what we're requesting may be voluminous in nature, so they may need more than 10 days to respond, but they owe us an acknowledgement and a timeline of when they will get us the information.
Correct. Like if they're not going to get it to you within the 10 days, they need to give you a timeline.
Exactly. And there's also some language in there. This is why I strongly recommend you use the template and insert your stuff in the middle. There's language around what they can and cannot redact, because you will find that districts love to say, we can't give you this information. It's a breach of confidentiality, or it infringes upon student privacy rights. And
there's almost, I think that's a thing to tell the listeners, is that there's almost always like a pushback.
Yes. It's rare that you will get exactly what you want the first interaction or first email you send out.
Well, that's a shocker.
Often, so don't get discouraged. It can take, up to 10 or 12 iterations, but you got to keep going. You just got to be persistent, because they'll give you little nuggets. It's like Hansel and Gretel. They're dropping little breadcrumbs, but you have to do all the legwork. So I want our listeners to be very much aware that we are the ones that are going to have to pursue this and do the legwork.
And I want to just say, Tiffany, when I read your Substack and how defeated you felt, this is just have in mind that they want you to feel defeated.
Exactly.
Okay. Because then you'll stop, but you're not going to stop.
Right.
Because we're here to encourage you. You're not stopping. Right. We're not stopping. And so as you get the breadcrumb, then you take that breadcrumb and you go back and you ask.
Exactly right.
Clarify.
Now, as for the substance of what it is you want to request, it can be anything and everything you have concerns about. But the hardest part is distilling it down to concise bullet points or numbers. So I tend to probably do really long public records requests, but I try to keep it under 12 things that I ask for, but I like to do it. I like to organize each public records request by topic.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to do all sorts of random things in one request. I'm going to do them topic based. So for instance, on this gender support plan stuff and the transitioning and the gender ideology, all of what I'm asking for in that public records request is going to coincide with gender support plans being implemented within Irvine Unified School District, correspondence amongst staff, the board,
Yeah.
mental health specialists about gender support plans. You often want to ask them for keywords. So the less vague you make your request, the better.
Mhm.
If you make your request vague, they're going to take advantage of it.
Mhm.
And that's going to lead to more back and forth. And the best way to know exactly what to ask for is to tune into the board meetings, because they will give little clues. You'll hear buzzwords, you'll hear things brought up in the board meetings, and you'll be like, oh, I need to probe further on that. And you'll have the language to use for your request, because
Right.
you'll take it straight from the horse's mouth.
So in the circumstance of the gender support plans, that's a word
Yes.
that you got, and
Yes.
and it's a good idea also to narrow like a time frame.
Correct. Yeah.
So finding around, like, around that meeting, did you ask, like, what did you ask for when you got that nugget?
So that particular public records request originated from the whistleblower who gave us evidence that
Okay.
this gender ideology was going on. And I compounded that with what I knew had been discussed in the Continuous Improvement Council about we're proud of gender support plans and the use of preferred pronouns. And so I knew that we were teaching at that point that we were teaching this ideology from the TK level on up, and that gender support plans existed.
Mhm.
So what I wanted to understand was, what's the point of origination and how prevalent is this within our school district? Because I thought, well, maybe they're just making a big to do and it's only like 5 students, right?
Mhm.
It's really not, that there isn't buy-in, right?
And you found 96 middle and high school students and
It was-
14 elementary.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
going like socially transitioned at school to a
Yeah.
point that they filled out a contract saying,
Yes.
I am a girl, but I'm going as a boy. Or
And
I
these are
am
my
a boy,
pronouns
and
you will use at school.
This is the restroom and the locker room, or
Every
space
everywhere on campus.
Yeah, but the parents don't know. The parents.
That was
do
the
not have
part
to
that
be.
was unclear. So in the records we requested, initially their response was, why don't you come have an in-person meeting with us, when I probed about, the prevalence of gender support plans. And I thought, oh, well, hey, why not? That's great. Right.
Mhm.
So because I didn't have my request crafted exactly the way it needed to be to get the information I was after how widespread is this? How many are there? And so until I had that in-person meeting, which I did do, I sat down. And so this is another thing I encourage, if they don't offer it, you can suggest it. Well, may I meet with so-and-so on campus? It would usually be the mental health counselor or mental health specialist. In our case, it's the LGBTQ plus community support liaison.
But you're doing this from your own personal, like they know who you are. Some people are not
Right.
comfortable with that. And I
And
just
that's
wanted to
okay.
say
Yeah.
that, like, you can do this anonymously. Like, you can set
Absolutely.
up an email account with a
Yep.
different name. It doesn't, like, if you're concerned about like blowback on your kid, like that's perfectly legal. You're allowed to do this anonymously. You can request, just make up an email account, make up a name.
Exactly right.
And ask for what it is that you need to know about
That's
in
right.
your district.
And there's no limit to how many you can submit. They're not going to like it very
Right.
much if you go keep doing more. They don't like it, but they're required to respond to it.
And while we have this, and I'm sorry, Angela, did you?
Oh, no, that's I was going to ask a couple questions. First, was this your first records request?
No, I started doing public records requests. It was August of 2022, I believe, was my very first public records request. So this was about the 9th or 10th one that I
Okay.
had done.
So when you did the first one,
Yeah.
was this is obviously how you've learned how to put this template together, what
Correct.
to ask for,
Yes.
what to emit. Okay.
Yes. And I
Okay.
had a friend that's an amazing advocate that's very well versed in public records that helped coach me on the process.
Mhm.
So that
Okay.
was tremendously helpful as well. And the template we've put together is comprised of a lot of her input as well.
And we have contacts with a lot of moms who are doing this and can help you. Like I said, just direct message us, and Tiffany will help us.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But anything that you're curious about, in this space, I mean, it's really as simple as that. There's really not much.
Really is.
They will push back. We mentioned that, and
Yes.
then a lot of times, like I've had things where like we've asked for a record, and
Yeah.
that then they have said like, and I've received the record, and then I see a communication, and what I have found is that oftentimes there's like this one teacher who's like a crazy
Right.
activist,
Yep.
And that's really the problem is like, we were talking about this earlier. Like, I am not an activist. I'm a mom,
Right.
and I don't know what you call us, just like motivated moms. Like, I don't know, but
engaged.
and we've got skin in the game. Like these are,
Yeah.
whereas like a lot of these people are very like they're activists when you see their communications. So we're asking for their communications, anything that's in
Correct.
writing, their
Yes.
emails,
Yes.
we've asked for.
And we can get text messages. There's very little that's off limits.
Slideshows, like
Yes.
that's how we found all of that stuff in Capo, and
Right.
we knew that these kids were recruited into like going to our
Exactly.
meeting and undermining the meeting.
And
So
even if you think something may be off limits, put it in there anyway, because it doesn't hurt anything. The worst that can happen is they come back and they say that's a violation of so and so, we can't give it to you, or they'll say, and sometimes not honestly say this, no responsive records.
right,
leading-
and that's what I was going to say. So like I've gotten that where they say, "Oh,
Yes.
we have no responsive records," and I'm like, "Yes, you do," and I have
Right.
to screenshot the
You have to
email of
keep
like where I
going.
found this,
Exactly.
and it's kind of like it's kind of fun because
It is fun.
I mean, stop watching murder mysteries or forensic
Right.
shows,
This
and
instead, this
you
is
know,
forensic
this is
work.
yes,
Right.
and it's like these are your children. Like this deserves the time and energy and
Absolutely.
the inquiry, and this is stuff that you have a right to right now.
Mhm.
Who knows if somebody
So-
will try and change that up?
I think that the average person, the average parent with a kid in school is assuming that they get notified that there's going to be a change made or some type of
Right.
new policy that's going to take place. And then they all are okay with it or not okay with it. And then it's implemented in the classroom. And
Correct.
it sounds like that may actually not be happening. And that's
Correct.
what's so shocking.
Yeah.
Correct?
A lot is happening without parental awareness, any form of parental notification. And I honestly want to say it's almost like chaos because so much is being imposed so rapidly.
It is. I think that's by design. And
Yeah.
I think the one thing that's important to say too is like these are not records that you can get from private schools. These are public entities.
Correct.
So do you have any more information you want to share about that of who you can?
For private
No,
schools
just
or for
about public,
you can do public records requests to your city council. That's also a good thing because oftentimes there is going to be some dialogue
Mhm.
happening between city council and the school district. So I strongly encourage that. I don't believe you can get records from the PTA. That's one of those tricky ones. Like it's nonprofit. The nonprofit status is protected
Mhm.
from records being made available, but you can get creative. So
And there are instances where staff members, so like that's how we found this coordination with the LGBTQ centers is that, they're a nonprofit, but the staff is communicating with them.
correct
The
with
trustees are
IUSD.
yes. And so, so as you said, ask, just know that when you send a public records request, it's for public records. You can get more detail about like who you can ask, for these records, but
Exactly.
this is your job to know. You're a mom, you're a dad. It's your job to know what's going on with your kid for all of these hours of the day. These people have taken this precious responsibility that we have bestowed upon them of our children, and have taken it somewhere that I think a lot of parents would be really surprised and appalled to hear.
right.
Well, and read the news too. Obviously, the algorithms on the phone
Exactly.
hear what we're doing, and so
Exactly.
now I'm getting all of these media clips from the other side, the opposition, and how
Right.
brazen they are. How they're going to just, even if you get a parental policy notification passed, how they have zero intention on actually following that.
Yep.
It's pretty scary. So
It is.
the great thing about the ability to do your own records requests is that you can, if you don't believe what we're saying is true, please go do a records request and
verify.
absolutely.
100%. Yeah. I mean, honestly.
And then we'll have you on board.
There
We'll
you
have
go. There you go.
send your information to.
I never could have fathomed what I've uncovered through the public records. And I had my own stage of disbelief in all of this too, because it's hard to comprehend how, why, what's the purpose behind
And
all of
that's
this.
and that is the same way I got here, because you're like,
We're
this
curious.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to make sense of it.
Healthy
And then
skepticism.
And then, yeah. And it's like, no, this can't be true. That person must be crazy and they must be out of control. They must be like just making things up. And so then when you get the records, you see in the black and white. And I know like Angela had like when I was showing her stuff with the whole trans student hustle, and then you see like it's, you know,
I think I said mind blown at least 100 times.
Exactly.
And so this is how we, I think, dig our way out of this, is by, you know, as I said, like being willing to have those
Yes.
conversations with friends who maybe are not aware or don't agree with you even, but just like, hey, would you be willing to look at this? Like, ask for the records. This is what I found. This is this record.
Yes.
Like,
And here's a funny antidote, and then I'll say something in conclusion about public records. Is we are actually helping our elected officials by doing these public records requests, because we can bring them information. They may not know, as sad as it sounds, they may have no idea that some of this stuff is going on either.
Right.
And they're not going to believe it until we produce the own internal records showing them this is happening under your noses and you're supposed to be having some form of governance over this. So
yeah. And it's like what I saw in your district for sure, as I reviewed things, a lot of discrimination and a lot of pointing the finger at others about hate, but like the amount of hate, like, you know, you and I were talking about just the anti-Semitism that's going on in Irvine right now, the attack upon people. Even prior to that, just like we're saying, like, you know, the discrimination under this thing of like, oh, we're doing this to stop discrimination is just sort of like asinine. I don't know.
Let's face it, the school systems with the kindness initiative failed horribly. If we could just go back to that and just work on that until we get the kindness part down, then we can have some other conversations. But Tiffany, I mean, did you want to add anything?
I think I hope that we covered like just the basics of how to do it.
So
and like we're here to hold your hand.
Yeah, doing the request itself is not as daunting as it may sound or overwhelming. I would say the hardest part is when you get the records back.
Right.
And the detective work.
You may not identify stuff.
Right.
Like, you know, that's what's happened is like some parents have shared some stuff with me, and then like I put the pieces together, and like, please do that. Like, you know, we need the legwork done.
Don't give up.
So
yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
One more question. Gosh. The template.
Yes.
Can that be used in other states? I know we have some listeners.
So not necessarily. Well, it can, but they'll have to pop in their own ed code provisions. I'll have to go back and look at it, but I think it's mostly California specific. But if they take that citation out and put in their state's own version of that,
they
then,
can do FOIA, which is Federal Information Act, and you can look up. There are templates for that online. It's just that, of course, California has its own thing.
Right. Great question.
But yeah.
And we'll try to put the link for your Substack as well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because that's how people can keep up with what's like, keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on. But also, you know, gaining community. Like, you know, I want to know more people from Irvine.
Right.
So again, like, please direct message me if you're in Irvine and you're looking to you know, become involved, because this is you know, in numbers is what we need, you know, and so having
we need teachers to stand up. Please. Yes, I mean, you guys are the front line. You are with our children all day, every day. And
we have your back.
Yes, absolutely. So if any teacher's getting pushback, I'm sure we can put them. If you reach out to us, we can put you in contact with people that can assist you. But we really appreciate your time today.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're really confused about what the heck we're talking about, go to the Trans Student Hustle podcast. Go to the
episode 1 and just start there.
But on the Trans Student Hustle, there is a document that Tiffany found that, you know, says in Irvine as of June 2023 that there were 110 kids that are these are contracts that they've like filled out for the school, paperwork saying that they are, you know, socially transitioned. They're transitioned at school to a different gender. And you at home may have no idea that your kid is one of these. And 96 of them were middle and high school students, do I have that math right?
I believe
14 or
so.
elementary
Yeah.
school. And that, that we recovered discovered documents that show that, the family doesn't know that it was a boy using a girl's name, girl's restroom, girl's locker room. The family doesn't know. So
They may not know. We didn't get verification for every case, but we know
on that, on one particular thing where they've redacted out the name,
Correct.
but it said specifically, an email said,
that particular one, the parents did not know.
do not tell the parents, it
Yes.
said.
Yeah.
So it's important that you guys dig into this stuff. And so I just wanted to circle back to that in case anybody was lost on what the heck we're talking about and why, that was a really strong piece of evidence. And we want to help you to find these things. So any questions, any help you need.
Definitely.
Okay, Angela,
job.
I'll let you sign up.
Thank you guys so much
Thank
for
you,
listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Great to be here. I
Thank you for
appreciate
all
all
your
you're
work.
doing.
Thank
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.